Hello and welcome to Life and Whiskey. And this episode, I am going to go through video number 3 of my elk hunt series. We are going to look at some of the equipment that I use. I'm going to do a bag dump, as they call it. I'm just going to do a quick overview of some of the stuff that I use, some of the things that I think are necessary. This is not an end-all be-all list. Definitely check out people like Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobsen and some of the other personalities on TV. They all go through their packs at some time or another in their video series, explain what and why they have stuff. That's all this is going to be. To get things started, we're going to do our whiskey review. We got Evan Williams again. We're doing the bottled and bond. This time around, it's 100 proof. Now, bottled and bond is a specific category of whiskey. There's certain criteria that must be met in order to get the bottled and bond labeling. So it means that it has to be made at a single distillery by a single distiller within a single distilling season. It must be bottled at 100 proof, and so this is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So that straight whiskey means that it has a 2-year age period, and because this is a non-age statement whiskey, which means that it doesn't say how long it's been aged, that means that it has to have at least a minimum of 4 years before it can reach a no age statement limit. And so it has the same exact mash bill as all the other Evan Williams that I've already looked at. And this one was bottled in, let me see here. This says DSP KY1, so that's Distilled Spirits Plant Kentucky 1. And if you look on the back, it says Louisville, Kentucky DSP KY1. And then the Bardstown, Kentucky distillery is Bardstown, Kentucky DSP KY31. All right, so look at your bottle. It'll tell you where it was distilled and bottled. And so this one's going to be from Louisville. Again, this is a Heaven Hill product. It's at 100 proof, which means it's going to be 50% ABV. So now we're going to take the same, that black label was at 43%, this is at 50, so same mash bill. It's basically going to have a lot of the same characteristics, it's just going to be bumped up a bit, all right? So again, very corn heavy, corn dust heavy on the nose, right up front, some cherry, medicinal cherry still, caramel, vanilla is in there, and then oak, slight oak, very thin oak. All right, so 50%, this is going to be one of those ones that you're starting to get up into ethanol just a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit harder to drink if you're not accustomed to that higher alcohol content. I would say as far as higher alcohol content goes, though, this is extremely easy drinking, not very punchy. The burn is in the back of the throat, really. It doesn't burn your tongue. It's not very spiky. It's very smooth, easy drinking. You get the caramel forward, finishes with an oak, and a little black pepper spice out there, not much. This is a good one that if you want to proof it down yourself and kind of work your way through it as you add a little bit of water at a time, it would be a good one to explore where the flavors go. See if you can match maybe what the black label or the green label tastes like as you work your way down. But pretty much, it's I'll say the black is like 5% more than what the green label was as far as flavor goes. This might be 10% more. But it still lives pretty much in the same exact characteristics and flavor profile. So, and just for comparison, this bottled in bond is going to, I bought it for, sorry, gotta look at my notes here. I paid $12.99 for this bottled in bond. So again, definitely not breaking the bank, super cheap, super good. Check it out if you get a chance. All right, so here's where we're going to start. We are going to start with my pack. And just for reference, that is my very first bull that I shot. Just a small, almost barely a 6-point, but a 6-point nonetheless. 220-inch bull. This is my man cave. Quickly, I'll just show you what I got going on here. Let's see here. I got a reloading bench set up. I got ammo cans, coolers. So when it comes to elk hunting, you'll see those are just Coleman coolers. That one and that one. I think I paid $50 each for those. That takes these two coolers, and then let's see, where's my other cooler? And then that bottom blue cooler there. Those three is what it takes to pack out an elk. You can get 2 quarters in this one, 2 quarters in that one, and then I use that for back straps and the leftover scrap meat that I pull off. This is all fly fishing gear and fishing gear and the other totes and bins on there. There's my elk. That's all camping gear over there. Yeah, meat grinder. And then over here, let's see, we'll go back this way. Over here, so these bins are camel clothes. That's my pack, my boots, more camel clothes, and you know, some spotting scopes and stuff like that. And then we're back to the reloading bench. So I'm going to be going over and grabbing stuff here. We're going to start with my pack. So I mentioned it before. I got a Mystery Ranch Marshall backpack. I bought it off of Camo Fire. I think it was $450, something like that. If you look on the Mystery Ranch website, they're like $5.99, so got a pretty good deal on it. I believe it's 6,500 cubic inches if it's fully packed open. But it's a great pack. The frame, it's a guide light frame. It weighs, honestly, the frame weighs like somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds. I don't remember off the top of my head, which is kind of heavy for a frame, but totally worth it because the way that it straps to your body and transfers the load makes it super, super comfortable to pack out a lot of weight. So I always have with me toilet paper. I keep it in a plastic bag. You know, wet toilet paper does you no good. So I always have that. I always carry with me a couple of energy shots. I don't use them regularly, but I think that they do work, and I think that it's a good way to get you back to the truck if you absolutely need it. I always carry contractor garbage bags, the thick, heavy garbage bags. I'll put one in my pack as a liner. I'll put one around my water bladder so that if my water bladder ever leaks or gets punctured, it's not getting all my other gear wet. I also put it in my bag so I can put a whole quarter into the actual bag part of my pack. This system does have a meat shelf. I don't know. I haven't really tried it yet, but a lot of people who have their own feelings about it. I kind of like having a quarter stuffed into my pack because I can cinch it down the way I want it and get it to carry. And I don't do any backpack hunting, so like where I have my camp and stuff with me in my backpack. I haven't done that yet. So I don't need the space in my bag for all that extra gear. And so I just find it easier to go that way. I always carry with me in here, I got a first aid kit. Now, I got a first aid kit that, well, I got a wife that works in the medical profession, so my first aid kit is a bit overkill. I always laugh because I'm pretty sure I could do surgery with the kit that I have, but it has everything you need in there. Again, I hunt solo a lot, so I have more in there than what you probably need, but I also feel like, you know, as long as I'm conscious, if I can stitch myself together or do whatever I need to, I will. I carry Leuco tape, helps with hot spots and stuff on your feet. Something you might want to check out if you're unfamiliar with it. It's pretty good stuff. It adheres really, really well, better than duct tape. Let's see here. So that's all I got in my pack at the moment, but that is not all that I carry with me. I've just kind of stripped my pack down right now because it's February, and I was hunting last month with a buddy up in Montana on one of the elk shoulders. All right, sorry about all that. Computer malfunction again, so apparently that's going to be a theme on this channel for me. Anyways, went through my pack and what I have. So the next thing that I carry in my pack are game bags. I use this Ovis sack. I got these off of camofire.com. Again, description I'll have in below. You'll see I got bags in here, the contractor bags, but then I also have the actual game bags in here. They're synthetic. I believe in synthetic game bags. They work really well. I also have my Gerber Big Game Vital Knife. Carry that in here as well. And this is basically my kill kit. I keep in Wyoming, you have to actually sign your carcass tag out in the field when you kill something. So I keep a pen in here as well, so that way I got everything I need right in here. So that goes into my hunting pack. My binos. So I don't use a bino harness. I just use these straps right here, and I feed it through my chest strap on my pack. Here, I'll show you real quick what I do. So this way I kind of don't have to buy a bino harness. And this is just the case that these came in. They're the Vortex HD Fury binoculars. They're range-finding binoculars. I got them for 50% off, so I paid $800 for them, which is the only reason why I have something so expensive. But that being said, if you don't have range-finding binoculars, go get a pair. This is all I use now. I don't carry a rangefinder or anything. They're tremendous. They help out a lot. But see, I just put the strap through there, and now they hang right here just like a bino harness. My shoulder straps, my pack carries the weight, and I got them right at my fingertips. And as I said before in the getting shape for elk hunting video, the last video, tried a system out, because when I shoot, I found out, I'm good. My string doesn't catch anything when I shoot my bow, but you wouldn't know that unless you tried it. So definitely try out whatever system you're going to go with. But these go with me everywhere, whether I'm elk hunting, antelope hunting, whatever. Invaluable. That's the binos that I use. My boots. So you want to get a good pair of boots. My feet are always hot. These are insulated. I wish they weren't. They're 200 milligrams. I would prefer to have non-insulated boots. But these are Cabela's brand boots. They're the Alaskan Hunter, Alaskan something or other, made by Mindel. And they're full grain leather boots with a heavy ran around them, steel shank through the sole. They're fairly heavy, but you know what? Even in 90-degree weather, they're still pretty comfortable. But like I said, my feet are always hot, so like when I'm bird hunting and stuff, if I'm going to be moving, just a non-insulated boot's all I really need. And that's what I would prefer. So the next pair of boots will be non-insulated. But for now, I got these. They work. I always carry with me trekking poles. Now when I'm actually hunting, I don't hardly ever use them because I got my bow, typically my bow in one hand, or my rifle. It's always in my hands. That way I can kind of keep control of it. I don't like putting it on my pack like a lot of people do, just because I can't control where that is in space. And so if I'm walking through brush or whatever, stuff can, branches can grab a hold of things and whatever else. So I find that if I carry it, hang on to it, I'm able to maneuver through the brush and keep it protected better. That being said, it's very taxing to actually carry the weight of a weapon for an all-day hunt. So that's another thing that, train to get in shape for. Try it out, see how it works, see where that balance point of that weapon is, see, how long you can carry it, because it will get exhausting. But I carry these with me specifically for the pack out. especially if you're going downhill. You're gonna want a trekking pole of some sort, and these are super valuable in that regard. But push comes to shove, if you had to, you just find some sticks and use those out in the woods. But I carry them with me. These are carbon. They're super light. They weren't very expensive. Okay, so those are all things I carry with me. As far as actual clothing goes, these are all Camo Fire items. So this is a company called 46 Rail. It doesn't exist anymore. Went out of business. Everything was on super clearance on Camo Fire, so I bought stuff. Like this jacket has pillowed fleece on the inside, so it's incredibly warm. You can see, and it has lots of zippers on it for breathing. So it has like zippers here in the arms to open the pits. Has zippers down the back in has zippers down the back in 2 different spots. So you can open up the back so you can get a lot of ventilation through there. I bought this cheap on Camo Fire. Nomad. Bought this pair of pants on Camo Fire for a hunting trip I took to New Zealand this spring. Again, super cheap. These ones are pretty warm. I was wearing these elk hunting a couple of weeks ago up in Montana when the wind chill was probably pushing around 0, maybe a couple of days. These are too warm for most hunting situations for me, but they're cheap, so I got a cold weather set. Most often, this is what I'm wearing. This is Core 4 Element. I think they've rebranded a couple times and there's something else, but this is just a long sleeve t-shirt, stretchy tee, wicks away stuff. It's got holes, it breathes really good. This is my base layer, if you want to call it that. I have a puffy. It's rare that I use this, but again, I haven't done a whole lot of sitting and glassing and stuff, but it's reversible, orange and camo. I bought this at Walmart as season closeout in the spring for $25 maybe, something like that. So it's a puffy, it's nothing fancy. I believe it would do the trick if I needed to, but so far I haven't used it very much. Couple sets of gloves, again, Camo Fire. Those are good to have. Just a regular baseball cap. I always use that. This is just a second shirt. This is that Rail 46 again, or 46 Rail or whatever. It's just another base layer shirt, stretchy, whatever. I don't use this one as much. Let's see here. Now this is a controversial thing, but rain gear. Some people really get into the Sitka and whatever else. So I find that if it's raining really hard, I'm not really hunting. I might be out and I might be waiting for the storm to pass or whatever. But if it's raining hard, to me, it's just not ethical to go try and shoot an animal. That especially during archery season, that blood trail is going to wash away before you can really get to anything. So I'm not really going to be hiking a whole lot. So therefore, breathability is only a moderate consideration. So this stuff here, so this is pants and jacket, is Frog Togs. It's cheap, it's effective, keeps you dry. That's all I'm asking out of my gear. So that's what I got. Think of it what you will. Yes, you're basically just throwing yourself in a plastic bag, but it does keep you dry. It costs you $35. Let's see, what else do I got in here? Where are my for archery season, most of the time, again, Nomad. These pants, see if it says what style they are. Well, I don't know what style this particular brand pant is, but It's Nomad anyways. Bought it on Camel Fire. It was like 25 bucks. This stuff is just like extremely, extremely thin material. I mean, it's basically a sheet. That's really what it is. And this is what this is really what I'm hunting in during archery season. Because, like I said, 2 years ago it was 92, 93. Last year it was 95 degrees. You know, it's just hot. So I'm down to minimal stuff. If I'm in cold weather, I'll switch to that first pair of pants that I showed you. I normally carry, you know, a pair of pants, and then that light shirt that I showed you. I'll carry that heavier jacket with me because oftentimes it's pretty cold in the morning, down in the low 40s. Which if you know, you're out archery hunting, your body's probably acclimated to 80s and 90s for summertime temps, so 40 seems pretty cold, even though it's really not. So I carry that jacket, and then I carry a puppy with me if I think it's going to get really cold. I always, always, always have my rain gear with me. It's, you know, it weighs like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, so it's not really that big of a deal to carry it with me. So that's kind of the clothing that I keep with me. Again, I'm focusing largely on archery elk hunting, so you're going to have to adapt your clothing system to whatever temperatures you're going to expect. But, you know, this is kind of what I got, and you can augment pieces of gear here and there as needed. But just expect that even on an archery hunt, on opening weekend, it is possible, and certainly by mid-September, it is highly likely that you are going to run into snow above 7,000 or 8,000 feet in most of the mountain states of the Midwest, in most of the mountain states where you're going to be elk hunting. You're going to run into snow from mid-September forward, and it's not unheard of to see it earlier. So plan to have cold weather gear with you, and you may or may not need it. So just keep that in mind. All right, so that's clothing. Now, if you're going to do a backpack hunt or something like that, where you're taking camp with you and you're going out of your pack, you're gonna want a lighter tent if possible. You know, you should be able. 2-person is probably the best way to go. I know a lot of people do tarps and whatever else, and you're just gonna have to decide how rugged you want to be. But like a 2-person tent, you'll get 3.5, 4 pounds out of it. Not too bad. And let's see, you know, sleeping bag is probably going to run you 2.5 to 4.2 pounds. You can pick those up for under $100 if you keep an eye on stuff. Sleeping pads, stuff like that, not too bad. But I mainly, you know, I have a base camp. I typically sleep in the bed of my truck, or I'll set up a tent, but most often bed in my truck just because I'm kind of lazy and don't really, like this year my wife was with me, so we set up a tent and stuff, but previous years I just sleep in the bed of my truck. I got a hard tonneau cover, so I call it the coffin. I leave it open at night, and if it starts to rain, I just close it down, and yeah, you're only sleeping in, you know, 2-foot space, but it works. Keeps the rain off you. Nothing fancy about how I operate, you know, and that way I can throw a bedroll. I got a chaise lounge outdoor chair pad I bought for like $15 from Home Depot on closeout at the end of the summer. I lay on that in the bed of my truck. It's great. So that's clothing. All right, now moving into gear. I'm actually going to tilt the camera down here a little bit so you can see inside of my bin. So I use bins. I like bins a lot. They're awesome for getting stuff. Let me see here. Get my facing camera here. Try that. They're good for keeping stuff organized. They're good for throwing stuff in the bed of your truck. And for you know, just keeping things going as they are. So I got like all my gear in a bin, all my clothes in a bin. But so again, Camel Fire. I use a bladder in my bag, a 3-liter bladder. I suck a lot of water, especially when it's hot out. So I use a bladder system. Bugle tube. So I use the Primos Terminator bugle. It's a great way to get started. If you can operate a diaphragm call and kind of the wiffle bat style bugle tube, go for it. I'm going to graduate into that this year, but for now, I use this. It works just fine. Let's see here. I got a lot of extras of stuff, but that's not typically what I bring in my pack. Headlamp. I always try and keep 2 headlamps on me when I'm hunting. You know, my main one that I'm going to use most often, and then I keep a second one in case I have to like cut up an animal in the dark or something. I can hang one up in a tree, and then I can use mine, you know, on my head. That works really good. I encourage that. And hopefully this audio is coming through. I'm trying to speak loud enough that it can get picked up. I'm wondering if maybe since the furnace kicked on and it's right above my computer, it might be drowning me out. So hopefully not. Bought this off Optics Planet. It's just a little bag that slips onto your waist strap on your pack. And it's specifically designed by Mystery Ranch, but I bought it for like, I think 15 bucks. You know, I like to keep my wind checker in there if it's not in the pocket of my pants, or calls, or any other little small items to have handy. Bear spray. I always carry bear spray with me. You know, I'm always in a spot where there's, at a minimum, black bears, but oftentimes there's grizzlies as well, depending on where I'm hunting. If I'm going way back into the backcountry, I got, you know, water purification tablets. Seguro is like this little gummy paste thingy that it's like Laffy Taffy that you stretch it, work it, and then you can use it to repair stuff and it'll harden. So I keep that. You know, I keep a lot of extra stuff if I'm going deeper in. But you know, some of that stuff sometimes can save you pretty good. I keep a chunk of paracord with some carabiners in it so that you can take meat and hang it. And, you know, it's really light and it has a million uses, so you never know when you're going to need that. If it's going to be cold, I carry some hot hands. Same if I'm going to be sleeping out at night and it's going to be cold. I get the hot hands that are shaped specifically for your toes. You know, if you get cold at night when you're sleeping, they're sticky and they'll stick to the bottom of your sock. Put those on and your feet will be warm all night in your sack. That's a good little tip there. Wind checker. So I've talked about wind just ever so briefly, but I will go through a bottle of this a season. I check the wind constantly, every couple of seconds, you know, especially when I'm working an animal, trying to get into position. With every shadow, with every change in topography, with every second that goes by as a weather system gets closer to approaching, as the daylight temperature warms up and starts going uphill, that wind is constantly shifting, and you need to be aware of where it's going and make your play based on that. So I always, always, always have a wind checker and typically a backup in my pack. This is typically in my pocket. Let's see, what else do I got here? Headlamps, extra webbing, extra batteries. I always try and keep one set of extra batteries for my headlamps. They all use AAA, so that way I don't have to carry different size batteries. I keep one extra battery for my range-finding binoculars, just in case, I don't know, I didn't check it before I went out or whatever. I got an extra set of batteries. And then for calls, I use a couple of different reed-style mouth calls for cow calls, and then I also use diaphragm calls for kind of finishing off an elk, bringing them in closer, so that way I can do the no hands thing. These style calls, these reeds, are excellent for long distance. They're really, really loud. They broadcast really well. The reed mouth style calls, just like turkey hunt, it's great for when you're in close. If you need to make a sound or do something without moving your hands, awesome for that. Those are what I do for calls. I use the OnX map system app on my phone for GPS. It's great. If you haven't checked out OnX yet, I don't know where you've been the last couple of years, but it's pretty much all you need. Has all the maps built into it, and it allows you to see all the boundaries of public and private land and stuff like that, which is invaluable when you're out hunting. Sorry, I gotta keep my computer refreshed here. Something I always do as a backup for that is before I leave the truck, I always carry a compass with me. I know it's an old school skill, but you know what? Sometimes it's what you need. I also carry, I don't know where it is at the moment, but I carry a paper map that I laminated with some clear packing tape. It's an aerial photograph that I just printed off a page from Google Earth of where I'm hunting, so that way I can use my map and figure out where the heck I am. And I also carry with me another good wind checker, so I just keep it in an old medicine bottle, but it is milkweed. So milkweed, it floats on all the air currents. You can see how it's just hanging there. Excellent to use. So if you're in an area where milkweed grows, which is most places, or if you're in like one of the eastern states, before you come out on a hunt, go find a milkweed pod, clean all the seeds off of it so that you're not actually transporting those seeds into an area where milkweed doesn't grow, but clean all the seeds off and take just the cotton fluff on there and just throw it in a pill bottle like this, throw this in your pocket, and it's really, really good for just letting it up and seeing, you can see it 10, 20, 30 yards sometimes, so you can watch how those air currents are really moving. So use milkweed. It's awesome. It's cheap and free, just the way I like it. Let's see. I always carry, this isn't it. This is like everything, but I tailor it down much smaller than this. I normally carry a lighter and some of those tablets for starting a fire. I don't know if you ever get in a dire situation. Granted, archery season most of the time is still fire season, so you can't really build a fire. But if you're in a dire situation, it's a good thing to have. If you break your leg and you're way the heck out there and you can't exactly get back, if you have to spend a night, sometimes it's nice to be warm. So definitely, that's something to consider. Let's see. This is like a second part of my kill kit. In here, I keep a copy of the regulations of where I'm hunting, some zip ties, my hunting licenses. So I normally get my elk license, my deer license, and my small game hunting license. So that way I can hunt grouse while I'm out there and whatever else. Yeah, I keep that in here as well. Most all of that stuff is going to go into my pack while I'm hunting. And so all said and done, I carry that. And then the last thing that I get, just to kind of keep everybody safe and happy, is I hunt in areas where there's no cell service anywhere. In fact, you have to go about 70 miles before you get any cell service. So I have a Starlink satellite emergency beacon. So hopefully if something goes wrong, I'm conscious enough that I can actually use this. If you use a Spot or an InReach or any of those types of devices, that's pretty awesome. I think I'm probably going to upgrade to an InReach in another year or so. But for now, this is what I'm using. But if you're going to be hunting by yourself, 100% you should carry something. And even if you're with some other people, it's always good. Because I know, like I said, where I'm about 70 miles from cell service, which means you have to get back to the vehicle, which is going to take a couple hours. Then you have to drive out of there. It might take you another hour or two to get out. It could be 3 or 4 hours before you can get any real help. So, always a good idea to keep some kind of emergency beacon, just in case something drastic happens. Yeah. Anyway, so I carry all that with me, and when it's all said and done, it is roughly, 25 pounds once I add water. So there you go. That's kind of a quick bag dump of what's in my packs and my clothes. Now I'm going to move into my weapon system, and you'll notice, if you haven't already, almost all my gear is, you know, cheap, and if it's name brand, I bought it, still cheap nonetheless. So definitely, you know, yes, it's probably, I don't know, by the time you have my weapon, let's say I got $2,000 invested in gear, but you know, that's $2,000 over the course of, well, I've been elk hunting for 6 years, but well, I've been elk hunting for 8 years this year. But it, you know, add in all the other hunting I did before that and all the stuff I got before that. You know, I bought all this gear over the course of 10 years maybe. So spread it out. So now we're gonna go into the weapon real quick. My bow, and I will also grab my arrow, or my, sorry, trying to talk and do two things here. I'll grab my bow, and I'll show you that, and I'll show you my rifle, and how I, you know, what I'm shooting with that, and again, super cheap on all that stuff too. So, here we go. My bow. So I am not fortunate enough to be one of those people to always get the latest, greatest every year, the new model, whatever. Okay, so I bought this bow in 2012, and I bought it in January of 2013. It's a 2012 model year bow. I bought it specifically when I was living in North Dakota. Me and a buddy were planning a hunt to the Badlands to go do a mule deer spot and stock hunt. Cheers. Bottle and bond, still great. I bought it then. It is now 2020, so it's 8 years old. The elk that I killed in 2018 was the first animal I ever took with it. It still shoots great. I can shoot, if I practice good, and I'm on my game, I can shoot typically a 4 to 6 inch group of 5 arrows at 80, I don't think I've ever shot 90, 80 yards. And I've upgraded stuff over the years. I bought it as a package bow. It's a 2012 Bowtech Assassin package. Came with the Octane rest and quiver and stabilizer. I still use the same quiver and stabilizer that it came with. I upgraded the rest and the sight. I shoot Beeman ICS Classics or Professionals, depending on what I can get on Camo Fire on sale. Typically on sale on there. Shoot a 300 spine. I can get them, I want to say I paid $70 for a dozen. I think that's right. It's like 50% off. It's pretty awesome. I cut all my own arrows, do all my inserts. This year I switched to a Muzzy MX3 broadhead. 125 grain. So my very first bow I shot with a 340 spine arrow and a 100 grain arrow, and this year I bumped up to a 300 spine and 125 grain broadhead. And those MX3 have a little bit thicker steel in the broadhead. I'm super impressed with them. I punched through that bull. Granted, it was only 22 yards, but this year I've shot through that bull, went over, picked up my arrow out of the brush, not a single nick in it. It was still razor sharp. You could still cut paper perfect with it. I honed it up, and that's going to be the first broadhead I shoot again this year. So I'm pretty happy with that. So yes, there are better broadheads out there. But again, you know, I think I paid $12.99 for a package of 3. I bought 4 packages because it also came with a set of blades, practice blades. So I bought 4 packages, so that way I had 4 practice broadheads, and then I had 12 total heads to choose from to make sure that I found the ones that were best balanced and most symmetrical, and matched my arrow tune setup, so that way my arrows were flying perfect. But again, super cheap, but very effective. So here's my arrows. This is the quiver. I try and put black electrical tape or anything that's shiny or has a clear plastic on it. But you know, this is what I shoot. I don't have it on this particular set of arrows, but most often I'll take and I'll put a wrap on here, a white wrap, so that way I can track my arrows in flight a little bit better visually. And then also, the other benefit of that is now you got a solid white spot that when you shoot through an animal, you can see the blood really nice. I try and keep stuff bright. They do make a whiteout series, Beeman does, of arrows. I might end up going that direction. Um, it all depends. As far as my bow, I get new strings and cables every, I don't know, year or two, depending on how much I shoot and how frayed it gets. I try and use a bright colored string, because most bows, if you didn't specifically order it, like I pulled this off the shelf, it was camouflage, so you can set that down in some tall grass and lose it pretty easy, so I try and keep bright colors and stuff, just so I can find stuff easier. I use a Trophy Taker Pro, or Smackdown Pro drop away arrow rest. It's a complete capture rest. The thing I like about the Trophy Taker series is they're super, super simple, mechanically speaking, so there's less pieces to have failure. How they work is they have a spring that keeps tension on it to keep the rest up. So if your string snaps, your cable here, so mine's a limb-driven system, so the string goes from the rest to the limb, but they also make a cable-driven system. But if something were to go wrong, then that rest will be in the up position, and you can still shoot it just like in the old days when you had a rest holding your arrow. I like that. So actually, when you draw back, it puts slack in the string, which allows the arrow to come up. And then when you fire, the limbs go out, which puts tension back on that string, and then that drops your arrow rest down, so that way it's in free flight. So it's a drop weight arrow rest. Anyways, I really like that. Super simple. I can fix it in the field if I need to. Not a lot of mechanical parts to it. Some of the newer ones have centrifugal force mechanisms and stuff like that. I don't like complicating stuff. I have a 3-pin sight, IQ Pro. I really believe in IQ Pro. I think, or IQ bow sights, I really think that it'll help you get tighter groups farther out. I really do. They have a system in there they call a retina lock and stuff, and you can look it up. But it helps you stay focused, make sure that you're anchoring the same every time, and everything's being the same every time. I did have a 7-pin. And there's a benefit to a 7-pin because as an animal's moving, like if you took your first shot and the animal's moving away on a second shot, you can just keep moving your pin. But on the other hand, there's 7 pins, so you have to pick the right pin in the heat of the moment to make the shot. Pluses and minuses. So I went to a 3-pin since every shot I've seen that I could ever take has only been inside this year, 22 yards. Farther shot I took, my first shot was 9 yards, and I've never seen a shot outside of 40, and that was the spike that I saw this year. So I got 3 pins, 20, 30, 40, but it's on a rover. That's what this is. So that bottom pin, I can move it all the way down to 100 yards if I want. You might be able to move it out for a backup shot if one presents itself, but realistically, 20, 30, 40 is going to be most of your shots, and if the animal's further than that, you're going to have enough time to range it and change the pin and move it to the exact location and shoot it anyway. So, I went to that. It just makes life less complicated. Let's see here. I just have the original stabilizer that it came with, the original bow sling it came with. Nothing fancy. I did put some limb savers on it when I first bought it. It's Bowtech. This is their older style, but it still works really well. For a release, I shoot a TrueFire. I think it's called the Edge. Whatever release you end up buying, always get 2 of them, so that way you got one that you can shoot and be comfortable with, and then the second one you can take and throw it in your pack, so you always have a spare in case you lose it, or in case the wrist strap breaks, or in case you have a mechanical failure, or whatever. You got a backup with you. out in the woods. So that's always nice to have as well. And that's my basic bow setup. If you have any questions there, feel free to ask them down below. Okay, I know we're starting to get on a little bit long here, same as some of the other ones, but you know, just trying to show you that the gear that I have is nothing fancy and it's not overly complicated. You don't need a ton of gear, and you can certainly get out there and do it. Let me go grab my rifle real quick, and that'll be the last thing that I show you. Okay, now I said, again, don't have anything super fancy, so I think I mentioned it before, but I shoot Savage. This is a Savage 111. It came with a laminate stock originally. I have a Steiner scope on there, a Predator, which I bought off of Sportsman's Guide, I think. I got it for like 50% off. It was pretty good at the time. The stock is not the original stock. It came with a laminate stock, but this sling stud on the original stock was sticking through. And so for the first couple of years I had this thing, I couldn't get it to group for crap. No matter what I did, I shot hundreds of rounds, tried to tailor-made, hand-loaded ammunition to it. Best I could shoot is like a 3-inch group. I was going to glass bed the whole thing and whatever else, and when I took it apart, I found that that stud was poking through and the barrel was bouncing off of it. So I went on Optics Planet and I bought this. This is a Hogue overmold stock. It's the same one that comes on the Howas, and I bought it for $80 shipped. And I put that on here. I like the feel on it because it's nice, good rubber. You know, even when it's wet, it doesn't get slick. Put that on here, and just like that, boom, with the hand loads I had made, I tightened up. I'm able to shoot a half MOA now with this gun every time. And so I really like it. The Steiner scope, you know, nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. It's a fancy name, but it's not a fancy scope. I believe huge in stock packs. All my guns have stock packs on them, and so if you're not familiar with them, what it is this one. I use it to, there's shims underneath here that I use to raise the comb so that when I, you know, put my cheek weld together, it's right there, so I'm not having to hover my head up or down. So that's the first part about this, is it raises the comb and it gives you a nice soft place to put your cheek. Then there's a pocket that zips up in there, and in that pocket I carry my dope charts for my guns with the rounds, and then there's also 5 loops in there for extra shells, so I can carry some extra ammunition in there as well. So I got my dope charts, my extra ammo, and that's what I carry everything in these stock packs. They're really great for that. And then, you know, nothing fancy, but, you know, I think the gun, I think I said I originally paid $450 for it. It's a 30-06. This will do everything you need to do in North America. I shoot a 180 grain Nosler partition that I load myself. I buy them off of shootersproshop.com. It's a second-hand store for Nosler bullets. Those partitions, I can pick them up for $15, $16, $17 for 50 bullets, which in the store, those bullets are going to run you $40 to $50. So huge savings there. Yeah, you know, check it out, do it. But this is all I need to get the job done. So if you're interested in elk hunting and you've never done it before, chances are the rifle that you already have, if you're into deer hunting or if you're into hunting already, chances are that rifle will work just fine. Now, if you have a smaller caliber, like I have a 25-06, I would elk hunt with that all day long, but it's going to limit how far you can shoot, probably 250, 300 yards at the most. And you're going to have a perfect shot, meaning you're not going to be able to shoot a good quartering shot or whatever. You're going to have a perfect broadside shot. So you're really going to have to pick and choose your shot with a smaller caliber, but you can definitely still elk hunt. So if you have a 243 even, or a 270, you can go out and kill elk all day long. Don't worry about it. So if you already have a weapon, chances are that'll do the trick. If not, Savage makes a great gun. They're very accurate, and they're pretty cheap, and they go on sale a lot. So, you know, go out and check those out as well. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up because this has gone long enough, but that's the gear that I use. And if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to drop a comment down below. Please like and subscribe so I can grow this channel a little bit more. If you haven't already, go out, pick yourself up some Bottled and Bond. Evan Williams. It's not a bad drink at all. It'll definitely suit you well if you're a bourbon fan. And although it's not a top shelf bourbon, it definitely is. It's a pretty good one for the price that you're paying. So, hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.